Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. In this one, we are lineup building. So this is pretty much my final thoughts lineup as we head into the weekend. I've had plenty of time to do research, go over some ownership, and take a deep dive in each player I'm interested in. So this is the lineup I came up with. Now this is not a guaranteed lineup I'm going to end up using. It's Friday morning, so things can change. But as of right now, I think it looks pretty solid. So we'll go over that, go over the process of why I like each guy, and then we'll just go from there. And before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in any of the spreadsheets I build every single week, links in the description below for my Patreon and my Slack chat as well, where you can bug me as much as you want and ask questions. Alright, so anyway, let's get into the lineup building portion of this video, which is the whole video. So we're going to go straight to the running back position, because as you're going to see, the running back position is the most important part of your lineups this week when you're building your lineups, as it pretty much is every single week. You want those bell cow running backs, but this week it's going to be very RB heavy, and the slate is absolutely loaded with high-end running backs. You got Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott, Saquon Barkley's probably not going to play, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell, Austin Eckler, Leonard Fournette, Mark Ingram. It's absolutely loaded at running back. You really can't go wrong with pretty much any of these guys. But the first thing I'm going to do this week is plug in Zeke at 8,300. I like him a ton this week. He gets an awesome matchup versus the Green Bay Packers, who are allowing the second most points per game to running backs this season at 36.2. They're allowing over 130 rushing yards per game. And the Cowboys have an elite offensive line. I know they're going to be without Smith, but they still have a really extremely solid offensive line, and they should have no problem paving the way for Zeke in this game. Pollard's really not a threat to him in the slightest to steal work, and I also like that Zeke was heavily involved in the passing game like he was last year after they acquired Amari Cooper after the trade. And he saw 7 targets last week, got 6 receptions, which is great for PPR scoring because it does boost his floor and up his ceiling. Now, he was not great on the ground, but it was a tough matchup versus the New Orleans run defense, which you really want to attack them through the air. Had 18 attempts for 35 yards, which sucks, but he did have a touchdown, so I do like Zeke a lot in this game. He's also a home favorite, which I love rostering running backs that are home favorites in DFS because of the great correlation play. And he also plays at 425, so you get the late night hammer is what you want to call it. So definitely like Zeke. I'm going to plug him in my lineup, the first running back that I'm looking to plug in this week. And the next guy is going to be David Johnson at 7,500. Now, he's not as expensive as most of these bell cow running backs, but 7,500, it's not like he's a cheap guy, but he feels a little too cheap here in this matchup. Just another talented running back. He finds himself in an elite spot versus the Bengals. They're getting torched by running backs this season. And you guys saw James Conner and Jalen Samuels eat them up on Monday night. And they're giving up the most points per game to running backs this season at 36.2 per game. Also over 100 yards rushing. Another thing I like about him, he's game script proof. With his heavy involvement in the passing games, he saw 28 targets through 4 weeks, including 11 last week. Love the price tag on him this week, and I think he's one of the safest plays on the board this week, and I imagine he's going to be extremely popular. Mid ownership's coming with him being like a top 5 heaviest owned player on the slate. So I do like David Johnson a ton, and I'm going to be plugging him in my lineup as my RB2 or RB3, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Because at the flex position, we are going to go all the way up at Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, we are absolutely loaded at running backs. We have 3 high-end RBs this week. We got Zeke, we got David Johnson, we got Christian McCaffrey, and I feel great about it. I know we only have 4,200 salary remaining left, but there's a ton of value on this slate, and we can get it done. So let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. And like I said, there's a ton of value on this slate, so it's very easy to fit in these 3 high-end running backs, and I actually think this is going to be a popular strategy for cash games this week. It offers us an extremely high floor and ceiling as well by jamming in these high usage backs. I mean, we got like 60, 70, 80 touch upside here with these three guys, and David Johnson, Zeke, and Christian McCaffrey. They touch the ball a ton, and they can also rack up the fantasy points, which is what we need. CMC is coming off a 38-point touch performance, which is pretty much unheard of these days. I know it's a tough matchup this week versus Jacksonville, as they are only allowing 18 points per game to running backs this season. But CMC is going to see heavy volume. He's matchup proof and game script proof with his elite pass game work. And I think you can also save a few hundred bucks with Dalvin Cook, who also thinks going to ball out. And he's got a really soft matchup versus the Giants. But there's nothing safer week in and week out than CMC. So definitely like Christian McCaffrey a lot. And I love these 3 running backs. I feel really safe with it going into cash games. I know McCaffrey wasn't on my core play video, but I didn't think I was going to be able to fit the salary in because my 2 main running backs I wanted this week were Zeke and David Johnson. And I mean, if I could fit Christian McCaffrey in, that'd be great, but I didn't think I was going to be able to, but it looks viable. So definitely like these 3 studs heading into the week. Then at the wide receiver position, we obviously cannot spend up at the wide receiver position if we have 3 high-end running backs. So we're going to go a little bit value hunting. Now the first guy is, I guess he's not like technically a value, but Larry Fitzgerald coming in at $6K. And Christian Kirk will not be playing this week, which means Larry Fitzgerald's going to see an uptick in targets. He's a lone receiver on this offense. I mean, there's some other receivers, but there's nothing like Christian Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald. So he's going to be the main target, and they're throwing the ball a ton, over 42 times per game, and they play at a pretty high pace. And this isn't. So if you look at the numbers, it's not an incredible matchup versus the Bengals, just because you can run on them so easy. So they're, the points, funnel to the run game. But it's not like it's a tough matchup or anything. You should be fine versus the Cincinnati secondary. Both defenses are terrible. This game should be played at a pretty high pace. It's one of the highest Vegas totals, so I definitely like Larry Fitzgerald in this game. Love the usage there. Now, I know I don't love stacking and cast, which I'm not technically stacking with David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. I apologize if I'm sounding weird when I talk. I can't breathe through my nose whatsoever, and I got a sore throat. So, yeah, I know. It's bad, but hopefully you guys can understand me. I mean, I'm kind of messing up a couple words, but I feel really nasally at the moment. But yeah, I like Larry Fitzgerald a lot at $6K. He makes a ton of sense. And I know, like I said, don't love stacking in cash, but that's why I'm not going to use Kyler Murray in this lineup. And GPPs, I think that's fine, but in cash, I'm probably going to try to avoid using all 3 of those guys. So the next receiver I'm going to use is Will Fuller at 4,500. I like him a ton this week. He was on the original video for the first look lineup. I just think he's an awesome play. I really don't like a lot in that 5K range, and I really can't afford any of them if I'm going up to Larry Fitzgerald. So I love this Texans and Falcons game, and I love Watson, and it's going to be hard to afford Julio and Hopkins in our lineups, and I really can't afford Deshaun Watson in this lineup. So I want exposure to the game, so let's take a shot with the talented Will Fuller at only 4,500. He's just really standing out to me this week versus this Atlanta secondary. It's banged up, and it's not very good whatsoever. In terms of yardage and points given up to the position this season, they've been more middle of the road. But I can see that regressing as the season goes on. Watson has yet to connect with Fuller on the deep bomb for a touchdown this season, but they're going to come. They always do. And Fuller has the highest average depth of target on, or ADOT, whatever you want to call it, on the entire slate at 17.3 yards per target, and is 13th in air yards as well. It's only a matter of time before the big game comes, and I'm willing to bet it's this week at a cheap price. Because if the big game comes, his price is coming up. So I really like the value here. We get it at 4,500, and we get exposure to that game that I like a lot without breaking the bank. Then the next guy he's going to be ultra uber chalk this week, but it's Auden Tate. He was in my core plays video, and I love him this week if I can find him. Yeah, Auden Tate, 3,500. So there's not going to be any John Ross, so this pushes Tate into the wide receiver 2 role this week versus the Cardinals. He was already heavily involved the past 2 weeks, so at only 3,500, I think he's going to be pretty popular heading into the week, and he opens up a ton of salary. As you can see, he gets us 3 high-end running backs in week 3, and this is with John Ross playing. He had 13.8 points, 10 targets, 6 receptions, 88 yards. That's not bad. And last week, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 9 points. Now he gets a great matchup versus Arizona, who just sucks versus slot receivers. I suck versus the tight end position. Auden Tate's a big guy. I think he's going to have a great game. At 3,500, he's the number 1 value on the slate. He comes in as my number 1 value-wise receiver on the entire slate, which is no surprise. But love Auden Tate in this matchup, and he's going to allow us to do a lot of things we want to do with our lineup. So definitely like Auden Tate. Then at the tight end position, it's his teammate Tyler Eifert. He just makes too much sense this week. Arizona is getting absolutely shredded every single week by the tight end position. He's only 3,300. And he's not some exciting play because it's Tyler Eifert and he's not that great, but he's going to see an uptick in targets with John Ross gone. And they're giving up about 30 points per game to the tight end position, over 100 yards per game, and over 1.5 touchdowns per game to tight end. So they're getting absolutely shredded. I don't care who you are, as long as you have a heartbeat and you're playing Arizona, you can go in my DFS lineup. And at this price tag, I think it's going to be impossible for him to not hit value, especially if he sees about 5-6 targets versus Arizona. So I do like Tyler Eifert quite a bit. So this leaves us with a quarterback and a defense left. And I'll tell you right now, I have to punt defense. And I will say, I've never seen a defense below 2K on Draftkings before, so that's actually pretty crazy. But we're going to go with the Steelers, and I'll tell you why in a second. So they're playing at home, and they honestly have not been that bad. Scored 0 points week 1, but that's going against New England, so you get a pass there. 7 points versus Seattle. I mean, Seattle's got a pretty solid offense. Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett, 7 points. And then versus San Francisco, they got 11 points. Last week versus Cincy, which is a very easy matchup, 19 points. They're going up against Baltimore. They're playing at home. Lamar Jackson has looked like he regressed after playing the Dolphins and Cardinals, because of course. So don't mind taking a shot at 2,100. They actually come out as the number 1 valued ranked defense on the slate in my model. It's only 2,100, so if they do pretty much anything, we'll be happy. And they get me all the pieces I want. I really don't think defense is going to be the thing that wins the slate, because it's going to be hard to fit the Patriots in, because I think a lot of people are going to fit in these 3 high-end running backs, which means we got to punt elsewhere. So I think the Steelers are going to carry some ownership, and they honestly have not been that bad this season, and they have a somewhat solid defense. So it leaves us with 6,100 left at our quarterback position. So it's actually a quarterback I really don't mind this week, and it's Carson Wentz, 6,100. So he fits perfectly, fits like a glove, and I got nothing against him. I really just the guy that fit the salary after we filled out the rest of our lineup, and honestly, not too bad. I think Wentz is a fine cash game option this week versus the beaten up Jets. They have an implied total of 29, which is second highest on the slate, and he's been solid enough in every single game so far this season. 28 points week 1, 19 week 2, 21 week 3, 19 week 4. I'll take that every single day. As long as he doesn't suck and sink my lineup, I will take it. He doesn't need to do too much. He's got all the weapons in the world, Ertz, Jeffrey, and all the others, except no Deshaun Jackson, which sucks, but should be able to get the job done, get you about 20 points, and go on with your day, and I think you'll be pretty happy. So earlier I said I like Dalvin Cook, so let's just see what happens if we plug in Dalvin Cook instead of Christian McCaffrey. Because honestly, I don't know. That's going to give us 6,400 left. We can fit in Kyler Murray, which, I don't love playing 3 Cardinals in cash games, but they are going up against Cincy. Let's see. What else can we do? So let's say we still play McCaffrey. And then we go up to the Panthers defense, which I like a ton this week. I don't know who will have to play at quarterback. That leaves us 5,600 left. Don't love Daniel Jones versus Minnesota. Don't love any of these guys, really. Kirk Cousins, I guess, is fine. So these receivers for Minnesota are really causing a little fire over there in the media. So maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Maybe they start passing the ball a little bit more this game. It's a great matchup versus the Giants. They sucked through the air this season. Don't hate that. But I don't love playing Kirk Cousins, and, well, I guess Dalvin Cook's out of this lineup. So, actually, I don't hate it. Christian McCaffrey, Kirk Cousins, Panthers defense, which I do like the Panthers defense more than the Steelers. But my preferred lineup this week, as of right now, is just punting with the Steelers defense. And then you can fit in Carson Wentz. And I honestly think this whole lineup's pretty solid. You got Carson Wentz versus the Jets, Zeke versus the Packers, David Johnson versus the Bengals, Fitzgerald versus the Bengals, Fuller versus the Falcons, Tate versus the Cardinals, Eifert versus the Cardinals, McCaffrey versus Jacksonville, Steelers versus Baltimore. I think this lineup has a ton of potential, and I think it's got a really, really safe floor as well. Lots of good value options and lots of good high-end options as well. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Remember to leave a like, and if it was helpful for you guys, leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. Hope you guys enjoyed that Thursday night game. It was pretty awesome. Cooper Kupp continues to ball out. It's great. I love it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.